Hi. I hope everybody's doing okay. We're going to be on here just a minute. I want to talk about some of the common disruptions that we are seeing in our classrooms or that we saw last year. I'm so excited to be here. I want to introduce myself. My name is Dr. Tanisha Barclay. I am the founder of TGB Inspired Solutions. I have been in education for 23 years. I have been a principal. I have been an assistant principal. I have been a teacher, a coach, all the things. Um, and sometimes I feel like maybe a counselor, a custodian, um, a cafeteria worker. I just feel like, some of these things just all mesh together and they run together after a while when you are an educator. But I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about some of the common disruptions that we see in our classrooms and some of the ways that we approach them and possible things that we can say or do in the moment. Um, and so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it, but I do want us to touch as many as we can tonight. And I may wind up making this a series, but I really do want to start talking about this because it's almost time. I won't even say it. Those are the words we won't say right now. Right? Those are the words. But I do want us to kind of start talking about some of these things because ready or not, here they come, right? So you'll see me looking down and it's just me looking at my notes. Because I don't want to miss anything and I don't want to leave anything out, y'all, because this is gonna be good. Okay. Um, let's just get into it. Okay. So here are some of the most common disruptions, and I'm going to tie some of these things back to the framework that I have. And if you've ever worked with me, you know about my disruption to instruction framework, where we're kind of going through some of the phases that we use in order to address some of these things in the moment. Okay. My goal is to address some of these disruptions in the moment. A lot of times, the professional development that leaders as well as teachers receive often gives you reactory reactions and things that you do after it has happened. And that doesn't really help us. Okay. We need strategies that are practical, that are not new, that are not blaming teachers, that are not blaming administrators, that are not blaming anyone, but are equipping us with what we need in the moment while it's happening, right? Because after it has happened, after you have gotten the referral, that data, that information, it's too late. That data, that information on that referral is too late. Okay? So, what we're trying to do is come up with things and give teachers strategies because they deserve it. Administrators, you deserve it. You deserve to have the tools you need to address the disruptions in the moment. And I got what you need. I got it. Let's get into it. Okay. But for the sake of tonight, we're going to talk about some of the common disruptions that you see coming from students. Okay. And where they fall in the framework. The first one is side conversations. So these are what this looks like is students whispering. Okay. This looks like them talking across the room. Y'all have seen it. Continue talking across the room, turn into the side talking to peers, all while you're up teaching. Right? This is conversations that are happening while you are teaching. So your question is, So what do I do when I see this? I'm so glad you asked. Okay, I got you. So one of the things that I like to do is to move a little closer to them. I'm gonna just kind of start easing my way. I'm not gonna stop teaching, but I am gonna move a little closer. Okay? So I haven't given you anything more to do as a teacher, as a leader, except move a little closer. Now, let me be clear. I'm not so naive to say that all of the things that I'm going to say will fix every bit of I'm not that naive. But what I am doing is giving you a toolbox, right? Okay? We need tools, practical tools that don't add to what we're already doing, but that will work. And there is research to support that it works, right? So that's what I'm giving you. But like I said, their sidebar conversation, I say move a little closer. Pause instruction just briefly. Okay? And then you're going to, in that moment, possibly use a clear attention signal. Say something like, hey, eyes, or pause, eyes here. Sorry, that's my dog. Pause, eyes here. Then continue your instruction. But what you're going to avoid doing is having a really long preaching session, what I call a preaching session. Okay. You're not going to do that because what you do when you have the long preaching session is you then yourself have disrupted and you then yourself have paused the instruction and we're losing time. Okay. So my question, what are some of the where are some of these side conversations happening during your lesson? Is it happening during directions, maybe independent work or transitions? Where is that happening? So, as a leader, as a coach, I would ask the question, or even as a teacher, I would just ask that of myself, like, I wonder if I see a pattern here. Okay, because what we're trying to do is catch a pattern, not catch the teacher like you're doing something wrong. You're not a good teacher. We're not doing that. We're trying to catch a pattern. That's it. Okay, I just want to catch a pattern. So ask yourself that. The next one, the next disruption is calling out. Okay, so what this looks like, students shout out answers. Okay, y'all have seen that. Y'all have seen that too. Or they don't just shout out an answer, they shout out something silly that's going to make everybody start laughing. Okay. So if you say something like, okay, who was the first president? Somebody going to raise their hand. Martin Luther King. Everybody starts laughing. They knew good and well Martin Luther King Jr. was not the first president, but they knew that it would get a laugh too, right? So, but what it did in that moment was interrupt and disrupt the learning, okay? Or they interrupt you while you're talking, or they speak without following the discussion routine. Maybe you're a teacher that there is a routine and there are procedures as to how we do this, okay? So then what do? You're asking, so what do I do? Dr. Barkley, what do I do? What you're going to do is restate the participation expectation. You may say something to this, to the, let's say you'll say, uh, I'm taking hands, raised hands only. I'm taking only raised hands. Okay. Or, hey, 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 hold that thought. That's a good one. Hold that thought. Let me hear from him. He had his hand up, but that was good. And then you do that. So what you haven't done was taking their dignity. Okay. So, and they realized, and you said it in a subtle way, that was good, but your hand wasn't up. So I'm going to take him ahead of you. Okay. So what you're trying to do is reiterate and restate the participation expectations. Okay. Where does that fall? It falls in the signal. okay, in the signal move in our framework, okay? But my question is, has the teacher taught how students should participate? That's my question as a coach and as a leader. Do the students know for sure how to participate, or are the students guessing, their participation rules? Do they know they're supposed to raise their hand? Do they know that that's an expectation of you? Or is it inconsistent? Sometimes we raise our hand, sometimes we don't. What is the procedure for that? Okay. But that was calling out. The next one, off task behaviors. Y'all better be writing this down, because I promise you, as time comes back and the students come back, you will see this, okay? Off task behaviors. So your question is, what does it look like? What is that going to look like in my room? If I'm a new teacher and I've never had a classroom, what does that look like in my room? Okay, it looks like students doodling. So you're up there teaching, or you've given them their assignment, their independent work, or their small group work, or their group work, and instead of doing the assignment, they're doodling. Okay, they're drawing something or whatever. Okay, or they're staring around the room. Okay, and they're looking over here, they're looking over there, they're looking everywhere, right? Or they're playing with their supplies, or they're cleaning out their binder, okay? Or they're talking about something that's unrelated to the task and topic, and you hear that. Um, or they're playing games on their devices, or they're just simply avoiding the assignment altogether, okay? So what do? I'm glad you asked. So you need to check for entry first, okay? Check for task entry first. Ask, do you know what the first step is? Or do and you're not going to yell this out clearly across the room, but you are going to come to them and you're going to ask, hey, do you know what you're supposed to be doing? Okay? Or show me where you are. Show me where you started. And they may say, I don't know, or I don't have a pencil, or blah, blah, blah. But give a first step prompt before correcting. Okay. Let me see this, or what I need you to go ahead and write this down. Okay. So what you're doing is you noticed. First thing is you noticed. Now you're engaging and you're responding. But as a leader and as a coach, my question is the student off task because of confusion? They're confused? Avoidance? Low engagement? Like I don't even want to do this. Like, I'm not, this is silly to me. I don't even know why, or unclear directions. I don't know what to do, because we have all types of levels in our classrooms, right? And I'm not even going to touch all over that quite yet. But yes, I am aware that you have students here, you have students there, you have students everywhere, right? So we've got to figure out, before we correct and before we go into that, we need to connect and figure out what's going on. Okay. But first, you got to notice it. I noticed this child not starting. I noticed them doodling. I noticed them not engaged. Okay. And I engaged with them in a subtle way, and I responded. Okay. Woo, this one right here. Out of their seat. Sit down is my response. Okay. I'm just kidding. So, what does that look like? That looks like students are wandering the room. If you've ever had that, even as a teacher, you feel like it's too much going on. Okay. If they're wandering all around the room, okay, for various reasons. Some of the reasons they're wandering around the room um is to sharpen their pencils repeatedly. I mean, they have nubs this big, okay? Nubs, little nubs. And they're in there sharpening or sharpening their pencils, okay? Repeatedly. Or they're visiting friends. I needed to go and give her her pencil back, or I borrowed a piece of paper, or I was trying to whatever, just all the things. Or they're throwing away paper, or they cleaned out their binder and they got a stack this big of papers they need to throw away. I mean, just all kind of things. Um, or they're moving during instruction, or they're leaving an area without permission. Just all kind of reasons, but they're up. Okay? So what do I do? I'm so glad you asked. I got you. Okay? You're going to redirect briefly. I think sometimes we go into these speeches and we're there too long, but you're going to redirect very briefly. You're going to say back to your seat. Go back to your seat. Or return and begin number two. I want start number two. Okay? If the student needs something, give us a structured option. You can sharpen after the timer has gone off. Or you need to sharpen at the beginning of class, but you can't sharpen all during. And some of this is procedures. Some of these things are procedures that should be established at the beginning of the year. That is why this is so important that we establish this, okay? But in our framework, students wondering while you're, you know, teaching or during a time that they shouldn't is a notice first. Then you respond and you may have to reset. Okay? And my question as a teacher, coach, leader is, are students leaving seats because expectations are unclear, materials are not accessible? You know how sometimes teachers put buckets in the middle of tables and things like that? That's to prevent some of that. So they're asking, are materials not accessible? Are the tasks being avoided? Are they just up because they don't want to do the assignment? Okay. So those are just some of the questions that we would have. And then the last one that we'll cover for tonight, because this is just a little mini session, is work refusal. So you say, okay, so what does that look like? Students saying, I'm not doing this. And yes, there are actual moments when students say, I'm not doing this. Okay, they push away the work, they refuse to open the Chromebook, they may even fold arms, they reject the task, like they're not doing it. If I don't say anything else and you don't hear anything else from me, remember, please remember, what are you going to do? The first thing is we ain't arguing. Let me put that better and grammatically better. We are not arguing. We do not argue with children. Okay? Lower the entry point. Say, start with the first one. Okay? Just do number one. That's all I need you to do right now. I'm not asking you to do all of them at this moment. Do number one, or do the first one, or do the first two. Then I'll check back. Sometimes they just want your attention, and they won't start until you give it to them individually. And I know, and I understand that you have 30 other students. Okay? But sometimes all they need you to do is walk over and say, hey, just do number one. I don't want to do it. I don't want to. Okay, well, you don't have to do all of these right now. But if you'll do number one and two, I'm going to come back and I'm going to check on that, okay? They'll do it. Okay? So offer a structured choice if it's appropriate. Okay? But what you're trying to do is figure out a way to lower the entry point, not lower expectations. That's not what I said, and I need you to hear that. We're not lowering expectation, we're lowering the entry point. Okay? Because you noticed it, you responded, and you actually engaged. Okay? Our goal here is to stop the disruption, because we know, you know, and I know that refusal, if you engage, baby, it turns into foolishness, doesn't it? Okay. So my question as a coach, as a leader is the refusal about defiance, task difficulty, okay, embarrassment, fatigue, a pattern of avoiding work, we need to find out a little bit more about what that's about. Okay. And sometimes in private, if you ask the kid, they'll tell you. That falls back to just let me find out what's going on. Or asking other teachers, does he do your work? Does he do your work? Oh, he doesn't do your work either? Oh, okay. I thought it was just me. And they may say he won't even write his name. You'll be able to say, well, I got him to do two problems. So that's better than what y'all got. I made some leeway. I figured out something that might work. We're going to lower the entry point. Okay. So that it doesn't disrupt. But those are some of the things that um, you're going to start seeing as we get back into the full swing of things. There are about 20 common disruptions that we'll be talking about and revisiting. I want to talk about these disruptions. I want to talk about what to do when you see them and exactly where they fall in our 6 moves from disruption to instruction. And again, I need to make clear that this is not about blaming teachers. This is not about labeling students. This is not about blaming leaders. This is only about helping school leaders and teachers see classroom disruptions earlier, respond more clearly and cohesively as a school unit, okay? And to protect instructional time before the behavior becomes an office referral. Once it becomes an office referral, that data is too late. Okay? That's not good. Let me be clear. It is good data, but the data we're needing is what happened before. Okay? The patterns that we're seeing with those students. What happened before? Okay? The goal is to understand what is happening before the referral. Okay? That is our goal. I appreciate you joining me, and we will pick back up with number 6. Have a good one.